She's got the biggest star in the league, unprecedented attention on her league, and yet nowhere to be heard. She has not catapulted this league into anything other than a laughingstock, and that's unfortunate. She has capitulated to the worst among us, bullies. She's afraid to lead, and you cannot be in a leadership position and be afraid to lead.
She has the biggest star in the league. She has unprecedented attention. And what has Cathy Engelbert done with it? She has led the WNBA into a laughingstock. This isn't just about a bad PR day. This is a fundamental failure of leadership that has allowed Caitlin Clark's rookie season to devolve into a crisis of bullying, jealousy, and unchecked hostility. The league has been an afterthought for 28 years, but in the last 2 seasons, Caitlin Clark has become the engine of its financial and cultural revolution. Yet instead of harnessing this moment, Commissioner Cathy Engelbert has been a reactive, absent force, capitulating to the worst elements of the league and failing to protect her brightest star. The frustration has boiled over, and now 2 of the most prominent voices in sports media, Dakich and Dan Patrick, have unleashed a torrent of criticism so damning that it has sent shockwaves through the fanbase. They aren't just questioning her competence, they are demanding her resignation, calling for a leader of the David Stern ilk who can rule the roost and restore order. As Caitlin Clark navigates a workplace environment that is not just hostile but demonstrably unsafe, the lack of a strong commissioner is more glaring than ever. Is the WNBA's greatest opportunity about to be squandered by a leader who is simply afraid to lead? The conflict isn't abstract. It's a tangible crisis of faith that has reached a boiling point with the league's most influential media figures. Dan Patrick, a titan of sports broadcasting, had Cathy Engelbert scheduled for a rare, unscripted interview that could have addressed the swirling controversies. But in a move that perfectly encapsulates the WNBA's PR nightmare, she canceled at the last minute. Dan Patrick was left waiting for nearly 2 hours, his production team scrambling, only to be told that the commissioner's own PR staff had ruled she was not allowed to do this. This is the moment the facade shattered. Here was the leader of a league in crisis, hiding from the very tough questions she most needed to answer. As Dan Patrick himself noted, she chose to go on a radio station in Kansas City where the questions were prearranged to only discuss expansion, avoiding the elephant in the room, the treatment of Caitlin Clark. This wasn't an isolated incident of a busy executive. It was a catastrophic miscalculation of leadership.
Exactly what he did. But the bigger issue is in leadership. And Dan said it right. You're the commissioner of the league. Yes, there are times when you listen to PR. But I always go to the actual. I've been in these situations. I've had PR people actually flown in a couple different times when I've made certain decisions when I was coaching. And I always sat there and I listened. And this, though, you don't listen to unless you're so tone deaf about what's going on in your league, unless...
This is exactly what Dan Dakich is talking about when he says the bigger issue is in leadership. Dan Patrick's frustration is a mirror to the fans' own. When the commissioner of a 30-year-old league that has finally found a transcendent talent like Caitlin Clark actively avoids the spotlight, it signals a terrifying lack of conviction. And the consequences of this timidity are profound. The WNBA has long been defined by its struggle for relevance, but now, at the apex of its popularity, the narrative is not about Clark's incredible three-pointers or her record-breaking assists. It is about the jealousy and pettiness of her peers. It is about the failure to call out the behavior of players who, as Dan Dakich argues, have ruled that league without consequence. The long-term strategic consequence is that this league is building its new brand on chaos and conflict, not on the brilliance of its superstar. Instead of following the blueprint of the NBA, where David Stern enforced a standard of professionalism, Cathy Engelbert is allowing the league's identity to be shaped by bullies. And that is a recipe for disaster. The psychology of the WNBA is now consumed by a bizarre culture of resentment. Instead of rallying around Caitlin Clark as the phenomenon who has brought them a historic media rights deal and skyrocketing ticket prices, a significant faction has decided to make her a target. This is where the leadership vacuum becomes most dangerous. When players like Chennedy Carter can cheap-shot Caitlin Clark from behind and the league offers no significant penalty or rebuke, the message is clear. This behavior is acceptable. It doesn't matter that these are workplace safety issues that would get someone fired in any other context. In the WNBA, under Cathy Engelbert's watch, it has been framed as a rite of passage by foolish pundits. This is an obscene rationalization.
Questions, people have not heard answers from the commissioner, and she said yes. So yesterday, after the show, we waited almost 2 hours for her. This was scheduled. She was going to do a meeting in her hotel room, a conference call, and then she was going to join us. So Fritzy, for at least 90 minutes, is looking just for an update. We're standing by, we're waiting to interview her. They didn't, balk at anything, didn't say you can't ask anything, and we thought, okay.
As Dan Dakich articulates, it is one thing to receive a hard foul from a Kelsey Plum, a legal, aggressive basketball play, but it is quite another to have a fist driven into your throat or to be intentionally blindsided. The league's apologists like Abby Phillips and Carrie Champion have attempted to spin this as a sign of respect, but their arguments fall flat. They point to a false history, claiming that this is how it has always been, when in reality, no one, not LeBron James nor Michael Jordan, had to endure a rite of passage that involved being knocked down from behind by a white player. The racism and jealousy are undeniable. These are not heated, in-the-moment basketball plays. They are racially motivated attacks that have created an unsafe work environment. Caitlin Clark goes to work every day fearing for her own safety, knowing that the commissioner is too tone-deaf or afraid of the angry African-American lesbians to step in and say enough is enough. This is the painful reality of a commissioner who is a follower, not a leader, who is afraid to discipline the players who are actively destroying the integrity of her own league. Dan Dakich's comparison to a potential OSHA investigation is not hyperbolic. It is a reflection of how far the league has fallen under its current leadership. The financial and cultural impact of Cathy Engelbert's failure is devastating. Caitlin Clark is the WNBA's golden goose, and her arrival has generated more positive attention than the league has seen in its entire existence. Yet, the commissioner has allowed this historic moment to be poisoned by a toxic, divisive culture. Instead of spotlighting Clark's talent and elevating the product, the narrative is dominated by infighting, racism, and bullying. As Dan Dakich puts it, the WNBA is a laughingstock, at the very moment it should be celebrating its greatest triumph. This isn't just a PR failure, it is a fundamental sabotage of the league's financial future. A league that isn't a safe place for its star player is a league that will never reach its full commercial potential.
When somebody puts their frickin' fist into your throat and tries to stomp you. You get these little girls on TV, and it's just awful. I get it. I understand. CNN gonna CNN, and you gotta check boxes. But these are two of the dumbest people when it comes to things they might know something about, and I don't know what that is. Certainly sports is not what either of these idiots has any idea about. But you know what? Black women. Always a place for you, and it has its privileges, let's just be honest. Champion, here's why.
The narrative has become a joke. It is so self-destructive that even the most loyal fans are experiencing fatigue from the constant controversies. The lack of a stern dictatorial leader, a David Stern who could find a player for their dress code and back it up with suspensions and fines, has created a lawless environment where petty jealousy runs rampant. This isn't just about Cathy Engelbert, it's about the legacy of the league. As Dan Dakich searingly points out, the failure is so complete that the most vocal defenders are reduced to making excuses about black women starting the league, a deflection that has nothing to do with the present crisis. They ignore the fact that stars like Diana Taurasi didn't face this kind of coordinated, racially charged abuse. The high-stakes climax of this story is simple. If Cathy Engelbert remains in power, she will continue to destroy the WNBA from the inside. The league's popularity will plateau, Caitlin Clark's potential will be capped by a hostile environment, and a generation of fans will be lost. Is Dan Dakich right? Should Cathy Engelbert be fired, or is this just a media storm? Let us know in the comments below.